Alright, so this brings us to the display. Now mine was jammed up as well. And in order to troubleshoot, I had to remove these plates and this gear drive shaft that allows the number on one side to be repeated on the other. And that shaft goes right through the middle like this. And it's pretty robust. I use the paint thinner and penetrating oil to flush everything out, get it spinning freely again. And you'll know when things are spinning free, they really, zip. Now, the next problem is aligning these things and both sides, and then drop the shaft in carefully without misaligning it. So the alignment got all messed up while I was servicing this thing. So what I'm going to have to do is align on this side, put the plate on. I'm going to leave the shaft out for now. Align it, put the plate on. Align these ones again, put the plate, flip it back and forth, which is really important. So I'm going to align these things so that the distance from here to this stop here, for a 0 is the same as it is on this side for a 0 to this stop in here. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to line it for all of them. And it's going to have to be by eyeball. But these teeth are pretty coarse, so eyeball should be more than. Okay, so I think I've aligned these things close enough. This was tricky. But basically you want to get them to the point where they're just really just, zipping around and flexible. Let's see, if I put them all down, yes, so all of them are down. So I've got this basically 0 zeros across here. And similarly on this side, if we get all these down, 0 and a 9. I guess that's close enough because I can move these back. Since what you have to do is you've got to, it's because you have to move gear teeth between this wheel and this wheel. You have to take the top plate off, adjust these as far as you can, put it back on, adjust the other side back up, and then back and forth several times. You're removing and replacing this plate. One tricky thing to mention is this lever meets this mechanism down here, and I just want to document how these go because this is super important. So this goes in there like that. And there are a couple springs in there. There's one that's loose, and of course there's this spring too. They have to be reinserted after everything is done. So these things are not, these linkages are not interacting with the display at all. They have something to do with the rest of the register. Nothing to do with this, just the display here, actually. So they just chose to put them on this mechanism. So yeah, that's the display. I might have to readjust these, I don't know, but I'm going to try it like this. There's enough play where I think I can tweak them a little bit like that and line them up. Because it's okay if you got to move a couple of teeth in either direction before you put the drive shaft on, which is right here. Okay, and how this thing is oriented is there's this little weight or something there, and that piece is on this side where the complicated mechanism is located. I don't know what this is for yet, this piece, and I'm not sure where it should be located with respect to alignment, and I suppose we'll find out. It doesn't at all affect the operation of this machine, so it doesn't seem to matter. So we'll find out more. I mean, there's there's a few wheels here where this one's going to mesh right about there. So mesh is right there. But I don't see at all where this interferes with anything on the display. Maybe there's something on the machine that interferes with. Okay, so I've got all these all the numbers aligned now. This was really hard to do. First of all, they shouldn't be super free and flexible, and they might rub a little bit, but that's okay. You want to minimize the rubbing, but they should really be zippy once they're all cleaned. And you can see that these are all aligned, and these are all aligned in a similar way. And what will happen is this gear should be oriented with this thing towards the more complicated end, this way. Okay, so this is the machine facing the customer, this is the machine facing the operator, the clerk, and then that little detent is on this side. I need to figure out how to orient the detent, but what you want to do is you want to get these things so that when they're at the extremes like this, and similarly on this side like that we're all on the same number. It's got to be 9 because it's going to count back 9, 8, 7, 6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's the end. So it needs to be on the 9. Same thing over here, I believe. And now I could dial in all the numbers on all the wheels. They're all at the same alignment. So next I'm going to figure out where this thing needs to go, because this actually hits a lever on the machine to do something, I don't know what, and that's important. And that is hooked up to this wheel somehow. Has something to do with that wheel. So I'm going to figure out what configuration it needs to be in. My guess is it's got to be at the all 9s or all 0s or something like that. So we'll figure that out from the service manual, and then install this shaft next by removing the top plate again and then putting the shaft in carefully without moving these gears around too much. Okay, the indicator assembly is complete, and the thing to look for is aligning. There's a little dot here on this gear, and it's called out in the service manual, and it aligns with the gear over here where there's another little dot. You can't see it, but that's key to this whole thing. The other thing is when you reassemble one of these things, you want to start with everything meshed to one side or the other. Oops. Then you line it up and you line up these with the wheels and these with the wheels first, and then you put this on last. Okay, you put this cam gear or whatever they call this, like a wheel assembly, on last. So that's how you reassemble it. It's pretty tough, and I've done a lot of clocks and watches and things, and this is the most complicated mechanical thing I've ever worked on. Okay, so I cleaned off the base plate with this oily rag here, and we're about to mount the mechanism, which looks really good now. And back onto that, I also mounted this gear, aligned it with, there's small alignment marks. You have to align it to both of these wheels when you put it in place, and there's actually a washer followed by the cotter pin. Yeah, this thing's ready to go. So I'm going to put this back on the base plate. Another thing I got going were the counters. Here, here, and here. These are functioning, and an important thing to note: the counters. Oops. Is that for the counters, you have to have this. There are these little levers coming off this piece. They have to be on the other side of these guys. It's hard to see, but they have to be on the opposite side in the counters there for the counters to work. Otherwise, the counters are jammed. It's easy to get in that jammed state. So that's one thing I have to do to fix this. Anyway, we're going to mount this thing back onto the plate, and it should be a lot more stable then. Okay, nice job.
Evelyn Key. 5. This.
Careful, the dinosaur will ride when your turn's over.
We're rolling. Go ahead and set it up.
See?
Now, don't do all of them. I want you to do one at a time.
Reset.
Push down all the way. Okay, good.
Okay.
One at a time. To start here, go one.
So, let's do D. That. And then you can always change
And do
it.
one of those. Yeah, you can always change it. You push another button.
There.
Just gotta push it hard.
There.
Okay, don't forget one of these guys.
It's still not lined up. E. Main. There.
Okay, push one of those big ones as hard as you can. Okay, ready?
Crank it!
Crank it. I'll hold the machine for you. Keep going until you reset. There you go. Nice job, Lydia.
Do it.
Watch this. Let's go D77772. Oh yeah. And then L4444. Okay, so I've got everything back together and the counter is reading correctly now. And we will give it a test whirl here in a second. But basically, the critical things are this mechanism that goes in there, latches in right there. This just works against this thing, okay? And the other thing is when you're putting this assembly on, you have to pull on this lever here, or this mechanism, and something latches in place where it gets the motor bar back into action. Before that, the motor bar was locked. And you also have to watch out for in there. That's got to fit through that hole. I need to put a cotter pin in there. Another thing too is that all the numbers want to be at the highest level, all 9s and whatever the highest is here N. When we looks like they're all running free right now. When we place this back on here, so that's pretty critical. Okay, so I think the source of the machine not starting and stopping all the way is this needs to be in play because there are some cams and things like that over here that control the timing of the machine. So I looked at the motor assembly, and it's not optional, but to get this all off, I remove this thing, and I'll do that live on the camera. I remove this and get that out of the way, and then there's a screw here that there we go. This should allow us access to, and everything comes off real easy. Should allow me to pull this whole assembly apart. There we go. Yep, there we go. No problem. Alright, and then this thing obviously is still well lubricated. So I'm going to drop this to the machine, see if the timing comes back and acts normal. It's now the motor bar is functioning, and the important part about the motor bar here is that this mechanism is absolutely key for the machine to work. Even though that's part of the motor, electric motor assembly, it needs to be here because there's a little a little stop that latches here to stop the thing at the right time. The other piece that's important is this here. It puts a little tension on the entire gear train with this spring, so that when you hit the motor bar, it's like a trigger. This guy pops into action. So without this installed and this guy, then the motor bar will not function. And I had to clean out these pivots to get them nice and lubricated so the motor bar mechanism would snap into place. So I'll show you, I'll run it and we'll do a little demo. And here we go, this is the motor bar. Ready? Boom, and that's the key. Now when it goes off, I'll try to actuate the cash register with the camera. Yep, and that pops down there and stops it. So that is what's going on, and so the next step will be to install the electric motor. Okay, it's time to install this motor. Everything's been oiled. The oil does not appear to be leaking out of this too much. And if I spin this by hand, everything looks good. So I filled the oil reservoir, which is this plug right here, and I filled the oil caps as well. So this thing's ready to go. And I've been talking to the guy from the the NCR collector dude who hooked me up with the manuals. He said that he recommended to grease the drive gears, and because there's just a lot of torque there, and also to hit stuff with this Tri-Flow, which has a little bit of grease in it. So I think what I'll do is I'll maybe put a little Tri-Flow on here and put some of this grease in there. Well, I still have access to all these compartments and things, and I'll install the motor. Okay, I've got the motor installed now. Everything's greased up, it's live right now. Just a quick note, you should always hook up the ground because there's not much between you and getting electrocuted with this thing. So always have the ground hooked up. It is very smooth, so we'll run the machine right now. Let's do ready? It's not loud, it's just rolls. This thing just rolls smooth as butter. Okay, let's punch in a code here and watch it from the back. I hit the motor bar just to see how it works. Let me get a little more light in there. Okay, ready? Let's hit the motor bar. 3, 2, 1. Cool. And let's maybe do it with the lights off to see the sparks. Let's do it again. Oops. Did that. Okay, ready? Should be able to see some of the commutator. There we go. Yep. Nice and smooth. Fully motorized. Yeah, it's rather snappy actually. Cool. Okay, it's time to move on to the printer.